Welcome to the Blind Android Users channel. This is your source for everything Android, tutorials and demos, all from a blindness perspective. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this.
Hello everyone, my name's Ed Green, and in this demonstration I'm going to show you an email app for Android, Aqua Mail. You have a lot of choice on Android when it comes to email apps, some of them free, some of them paid, some of them both. Most obviously you have Gmail, which is the default app included on many Android devices. Outlook exists for Android, as do many others. My favorite app is Aqua Mail. There is a free version supported by ads, and there is a pro version, and it's a very configurable, very powerful email app. And it's that app that I want to show you today. I'm demonstrating this on my Samsung Galaxy A90 5G, which is my secondary phone, and that's because I wanted to start from a fresh install of Aqua Mail without obviously upsetting the current state of affairs of my email on my primary device. So we'll open up Aqua Mail.
Aqua Mail. Add an account. Navigate up button. Preparing 3 full stop. Preparing 3 full stop. Preparing 3 full stop. Preparing 3 full stop.
So this is the first screen you'll see when you open up Aqua Mail. You have an add an account screen with navigate up button at the top. Let's see what we have.
Gmail or Google Apps. Hotmail or Outlook.com. Yahoo. Office 365. Other mail. Tap to add. Exchange mail. Using the software you agree are. EULA. And privacy policy. Text disabled. Text.
So you'll see here there are popular configurations where all you will really need to do is enter your username and password. That's the case in many apps. So the usual suspects you'll have heard listed there. There is other mail if your provider isn't listed and or you prefer for some reason to enter your server settings manually. I'm going to set up a Gmail account. So I've tapped.
The app will not go, store, or transmit the password. Stronger security, OAUTH2. The app will not go, store, or transmit the password.
So I tapped on Gmail. I'm now going to tap on the next button.
Using the software next, reasons, but next, add an account.
The next button typically, and as it is here, it is towards the bottom right of the screen. I have a nav bar enabled, so it was immediately above my recents button. We don't want to swipe back through all those email options again, so I'm going to double tap next.
Gmail or Google Apps. Navigate up button. Gmail or Google Apps. Connect a Gmail account from the phone settings. Connect. Double tap to activate.
That sounds a lot easier. I could key it in, but why when it's already stored on my phone?
Allow Aqua Mail to access your contacts. Allow button. Gmail or Google Apps. Navigate up button. Gmail or Google Apps. Email. Drop down menu. Select an account and press next. Manual button. Next button.
So I could key it in manually. I'm not going to though. I am going to hit next because I imagine if you have a Gmail address that you want to set up in Aqua Mail, you will have signed into it on your phone because it'll be the Gmail address linked to your Google account. I'm going to hit next.
Please wait. Authenticating. Check-in. Incoming mail server image. Outgoing mail server SMTP. Almost done. Navigate up button. Double tap. Almost done. Your name for outgoing messages. Edward Green. Edit box.
All right, it's got my name in for outgoing messages.
Press editing options of account name. Green 1900. Not hit. Reload. Attachments. Wi-Fi. Tick box. Reload. Attachments. Wi-Fi. Double. Not hit. Reload. Embedded images. Wi-Fi. Tick box. Reload. Embedded. Not hit. Reload. Hit.
I do want it to preload attachments. May as well preload images as well.
Not hit. Enable push mail. Instant message delivery. Tick box.
We'll enable push mail.
Back button. Save button. Save. Edit box. Double tap and hold to log. Ticked. Reload. Attach. Ticked. Reload. Ticked. Back. Save button.
So I've saved that.
Aqua Mail. Welcome. To get you started, here's a short intro to the app. Get started button. Skip button. Skip.
We'll have a look at the getting started tutorial, see if it's accessible, see what it tells us.
Get started button. Skip. Capital S. Next button. Choose from over 300 settings to make Aqua Mail look and feel just the way you want.
I did say it was configurable. 300 settings.
Next button. We don't collect or store any of your email data. Skip button. Next button. Set your Exchange contacts and calendar for the best enterprise experience.
We're not going to do that. We don't have Exchange.
Skip button. Next button. Thank you. We hope your experience goes swimmingly. Capital T. Tango. Dive in button. Dive in.
There we go. few swimmingly and dive in jokes there. See what they did. Aqua Mail, very good. We'll hit the dive in button.
Aqua Mail. Navigate up. Panel colon. Okay. The appearance of this view can be customized in settings. Message list. Okay. Swipe down the left side to select several messages at once. See settings. Message list to customize. Okay. Conversation view is currently enabled. See settings. Okay. Conversation view is currently enabled. See settings. Conversations to turn off or customize.
So conversations view is threaded view. I don't like that, so that's certainly one thing we're going to change. As you've probably gathered, we're just swiping through different tip screens at the minute.
Okay.
And I've been hitting OK to close them out.
Aqua Mail. Navigate up. Inbox. Search button.
So there we go. We have an account set up. I'm going to just show you what the message list looks like. We'll maintain people's privacy by not playing too much of the actual messages. All I'm going to do is swipe through the message list and we see what we'll get. There is one setting in Aqua Mail that I also want to show you pertaining to the message list. I'm not sure if it's enabled by default. That's aside from threading, obviously, which we're going to, as I said, disable in a minute. But there is one other setting which is potentially annoying. So I will tell you how to turn that off when we take a look at settings.
More options. Button. Unread. Read. Line to another brand / product / source for phone induction earphones. Russell James. 1320. Selector.
So what you heard there was you heard the fact the message was unread. You heard that the subject line. Then you heard the sender, and then you heard it say selector. Now that was after I swiped right again. So I'm going to do this again.
Star indicator. Conversation. 3 messages. Unread. Read. Selector. Conversation. 3 messages. Unread. Read. Line to Kaios phones and accessibility. Sean Evers. 1326. Selector.
So
Star indicator.
That selector and the star indicator are additional swipes from the message. So it took me 3 swipes to get onto a message, which is not obviously a happy state of affairs. Luckily, this being a configurable app, we can go and do something about that. I will open a message. I'll go back to one that isn't in a thread so you can see the view.
Selector. Conversation. Star indicator. Selector. Unread. Read. Line to another brand / product / source.
This one will do.
Read. Line to another brand. Panel colon or .man.aqua mail. Okay. Swipe the message sideways to go to previous / next one.
More of its tips. So it's popped up. Now, what I want to show you here is not so much the content of the message. That's fairly straightforward. We're not going to read it. It does read, obviously, it's accessible. What I want to show you is how you can do something with it. Now, the options to do something with a message that you have opened or indeed selected. We'll look at selecting messages later. I'm going to go and change some settings first, and then we'll return to the inbox. But let's have a look at the options along the bottom of the screen, which are things we can do to this message.
Double tap. Reply. Column 2.
So column 1.
Column 1. Reply. Column 2. Reply all. Reply. Column 2. Reply all. Column 3. Forward. Column 4. Reply is new. Column 5.
So reply as new, that's basically replying clean. You can obviously set elsewhere in settings whether replies as new anyway, insofar as you can elect not to include quoted text. You can also elect to bottom post if you want to, which is where your message will appear below the message you're replying to. I'm going to come out of this message. I'm just going to hit the navigate up button at the top.
Navigate up. Navigate up.
And I'm going to come out of there as well. And I'm now going to go into settings because some of Aqua Mail's default settings I find a little bit annoying. So we're going to go and change some of them, and then we'll return to the inbox and have a bit more of a look at manipulating messages instead of just opening them.
Deleted. List. Other folders. Manage folders. Manage accounts. Settings. Double tap to
We'll have a better look at this. So we've got on this main screen, when you're out of the inbox, you've got accounts.
Accounts. Read 1981. Smart folder 30. Double tap to activate.
So the smart folder, this is a feature of many email apps. It comes into its own really when you have more than one account, because it will show you messages from more than one account in one inbox. I happen not to like smart folders. I would rather look at my accounts individually. We only have one, so we don't really need to focus on the smart folder here, although it does a little bit more than the inbox. You can have messages you've sent appear in it, for instance, if you want to. I've only set up one email account for now, so we're going to kind of ignore that.
Inbox 30. Drafts. Sent. Deleted. Other folders. Manage folders. Manage accounts. Settings. Double tap to add. Help / forum. Open to the web browser. Unlabeled button. Unlabeled button. Unlabeled button. Unlabeled.
So a few unlabeled buttons at the bottom. We don't really need to worry about those. It's settings we want to go into.
Aqua Mail settings. Navigate up button. Out of Aqua Mail settings. Search button. Help / forum. Open to the web browser and list. Manage accounts. Server settings. Signature. Folders. Notifications and more. Double tap to activate.
So we will go and have a look at the manage accounts section.
Manage accounts. Navigate up button. Out of manage accounts. Add an account and list. Double tap to activate.
I don't want to add another account particularly. That is a straightforward process. If you do it manually, by the way, you just key in your username and password and the server settings it requires. So I can set settings per account. So if I go in here.
Assign color, 3 dash, and list. Account name, or green one, your name, Edward Green. Account setup, mail server settings. Signature, not set.
We could set a signature.
Identities, add or edit identities, aliases. Options, account options / composing and sending / reload / image options. End-to-end encryption. Folders, manage folders. Special settings, override app settings for this account. Remove the account.
So a lot of the settings that we could set in here, we can set globally, and I'm more interested in setting them globally. So some of the things it said in there, in the account options, for instance, notifications and all the rest of it, we can set globally for the app, which is what I want to do, because eventually I will put 2 accounts on it, and I want the settings across those 2 accounts to be the same. I don't want to configure them on an accounts basis. So we'll go back out of this screen.
Navigate up. Green 1009, add an account. Green 1000.
And out of that one.
Aqua Mail settings. Manage accounts. Server set. Recent. Settings you changed recently.
So this is really good because there are, it said, over 300 settings in here. You may do something if you're on a bit of a settings purge that you subsequently find you didn't like. And because there are quite a lot of subcategories, this recent categories shows you settings that you recently changed.
Mail receiving. Double tap to activate.
We'll go and look at receiving mail.
Mail receiving. Navigate up button. Out of mail receiving. General and list. System settings. Sync even when auto sync is off. Android 6 Plus. For more reliable mail checking, you may want to allow Aqua Mail to work in the background, ignoring battery optimizations. Messages to sync. 50 messages. Messages to cache. 250 messages. Scheduled sync. Scheduled sync. Check mail on the schedule in the background. Tick box. Use Wi-Fi only. Scheduled sync on Wi-Fi only. Tick box. Mail check interval, 15 minutes. Double tap to activate. So
we could change this mail check interval, and I think I'm going to.
5 minutes, list. Mail check interval, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Tick, 30 minutes.
I'm going to set it to 5 minutes.
Tick. Mail check interval. Okay, button. Mail receiving. Mail check interval, 5 minutes.
And interesting, that didn't have a back button, which I was expecting it to do. It had an OK button that I had to hit instead.
Custom check interval, not specified. Time reference point, 0000. Settle and delay, none. When the app is active, run scheduled mail sync even when the app is open, not ticked, tick box. Only when screen is off, run scheduled mail sync only when the screen is off, not ticked, tick box. Push mail. Push mail, enable push mail, instant message delivery, ticked, tick box. Double tap to activate. So that timer setting we changed in 15 minutes shouldn't really make a great deal of difference because we do have push mail enabled. Check mail on events. Event types, none. Minimum time between 2 sync events, 30 minutes.
So we could check mail on events. Let's see what this lets us do. Event types.
Event types. System auto sync setting and list. Device reboot. The app resuming. Cancel button out of list. Okay.
So different times you can force it to sync, as you heard there. Potentially an interesting option if you do want that level of configurability.
Minimum time between 2 sync events, 30 minutes. Settle and delay, 15 seconds.
That's it for that
Navigate up,
set of settings.
Aqua Mail settings. Mail, receive, mail, other. Look and feel.
We will have a look at look and feel. A lot of this is visual, but we'll just go and have a quick look to see if there's anything to detain us.
Look and feel. Appearance and list. Color theme. System default. Black background. Pure black background color. Not ticked. Tick box. Title bar and icon bar color. 3 dash. Layout. 2 panel UI. Use 2 side-by-side panels. Not ticked. Tick box. Hide the account list screen. Do not show the account list screen. Open directly to message list. Tick box. So
if you want, you can have the app open to an inbox, or you can have it open to an account list screen. Obviously, if you only have one account, there's limited value in that. If you have more, you might want it to open to an account list screen to save you having to back out of your primary inbox or your smart inbox to find the other account you want to go to. I will tick this.
Not ticked. To hide the account list screen. Do not show the account list screen. Open directly to message list. Not ticked.
Sorry, I'll untick it. It was hide rather than show. I do want it to show an account list screen because in due course I am going to put a second account on here.
Start the app in the main window. Allow resizing. Display a thumbprint for resizing the panels. Tick box. Portrait mode. Vertical with full screen message view. Allow resizing. Display a thumbprint for resizing the panels. Tick box.
I don't want a thumb control because I'm not going to resize the panels.
Shop portrait mode. Vertical.
Let me
Allow
just
resizing.
check that
Display a
unticked.
thumbprint for resizing the panels. Tick box. Ticked. Portrait mode. Allow resizing. Display a thumbprint for resizing the panels. Tick box.
Interestingly, I can't change that setting.
Portrait mode. Vertical with full screen message view. Navigation door. A navigation door message list. Tick box.
You do want a navigation drawer, I would suggest, to enable you to easily get to other parts of the app.
Other. Animation. Use animation. Tick box. Fit box. Use the animation. Use animation. Not ticked.
We'll turn off animation. That sounds like a pointless resource drain to me.
Fit fonts. Use the more modern and elegant thinner fonts. Tick box. Color labels. Show color labels next to folders. Accounts panel. Yes. Tap to show.
We want the
Double
accounts
tap.
panel.
Account names. Show account names as text, not just icons. Not ticked. Tick box. Double tap to activate.
Yes, we will show text for account names.
Floating action button. Google's do the thing. Floating round button for primary action. Tick box. Floating action button color. 3 dash.
I'm not quite sure what the floating action button does. I'm going to ignore that.
Floating context bar. The floating bar with icons for message actions. Tick box. Wrap log folder names. Use multiple lines for folder names as necessary. Tick box. Double tap. Floating context bar. The floating bar with icons for message actions. Tick box. Wrap log recent folder count. 3. Double tap.
So in that list, if we had visited some other folders, you can decide how many folders you want to appear in your message list. If I have tens of folders, if not 100 on this account. So I might well change this from 3 so that I have more showing, so I don't keep having to go into the other folders option. I'm going to leave it for now, though.
Keep recent folders for 1 week. Double tap to
And how long do you want those to show in your recents? You can go in and change that.
Log notification icon. Log back to close the app. Close the app when back is long pressed. Not ticked. Tick box. Notification icon during sync and push. Recommended, but turning off most likely won't cause anything to go wrong. Not ticked. Tick box. Notify about ongoing operations. Progress notifications for loading of messages / attachments and sending messages. Tick box. Notify about completed operations. Notify when message / attachment loading completes in the background. Tick box. Volume keys. Font size. The hardware volume keys are used to adjust font size. Tick
I
box.
definitely don't want my hardware keys adjusting font size.
1000 icon. Not ticked.
Get rid of that for starters.
Read app notifications. Draft saved, etc. Tick box. Right to left text support. Enable support for right to left. RTL. Text. Not ticked. Tick.
And that is it
Look and feel. Navigate up.
for
Button.
those
Look and feel
settings.
Look and feel. End-to-end encryption.
I'm not going to take a look at end-to-end encryption. It's not something I particularly worry about for my sort of emails.
Data storage. Double tap.
Data storage, the main thing to be aware of in here, this is where you would go to back up, but the main thing is you can specify where attachments are saved, and that is typically in your downloads folder.
Data storage. Confirmation to the do. Double tap to activate.
We're not going to bother looking at confirmations and undo.
Conversations.
Conversations we definitely are going to look at because this is where threading happens.
Conversations. Navigate up. Conversations. General and list. Conversation combining. Combine related messages into conversations. Tick box.
Definitely
Double tap
not.
to act. Not ticked.
Now, because I've done that, the various other options in here are going to be grayed out. I will show you what they are, though, because if you do like threading, then it has some quite powerful options.
Combine on sender plus subject, even when the messages are not replies to each other. Not ticked. Tick box. Rate on subject change. A change in subject means it's a new conversation. Tick box.
So sometimes someone will change the subject line, although the thread is continuing, it might have wandered off topic. You can decide how you have that presented.
Reindex conversations. Apply the above changes to the already loaded messages.
So had we changed anything, we could apply it to the messages currently in our inbox.
Presentation. Across folders. Combine incoming and sent messages. Not ticked. Tick box.
So if you yourself replied to a thread, maybe your list settings mean that you don't receive your own replies, you could have it here so that you have it in your sent items, or indeed just writing to an individual. You could have your replies show up here even if you are browsing the thread from the inbox.
In archive folders, enable conversations in archive type folders. Not ticked. Tick box. Tap to open first message. Tap a conversation to open its first message. Long press to expand. Not ticked. Tick box. Back to collapse. Pressing back will collapse the expanded conversation. If any. Not ticked. Tick box. Smart message navigation. Skip excessive old messages. Ticked. Tick box.
So if the thread's really, really long, maybe it's been going for ages and it's got who knows how many messages in, you can shorten it by having the thread kept up to date and the older ones not show.
Customize. Conversation. 2 messages. Unread. Start. Read. Sample subject. Candace Smiley. 1347. This is news response.
So that's just showing you
Selector.
what it might
Double
look
tap
like.
to activate. Star indicator. Start. Expanded conversation. Unread. Start. Sample subject. Candace Smiley. 1347. Selector. Star indicator. Conversation. 2 messages. Unread. Start. Read. Sample subject. Candace Smiley. Selector. Conversation. Selector. Mosaic contacts. Combine contact images into a mosaic. Ticked. Tick box. Reverse when expanded. Reverse the order of expanded messages from older to newer. Not ticked. Tick box.
So you can decide what chronological order you want a thread to appear in.
Indent when expanded. Indent expanded messages to make them stand. Color. Header back. Color. Header text. Color. Count background. 3 dash. Color. Count text. Old. Count text. Child message format. Default with 1 line of content.
So all sorts of color options that I skated over there. Backing out of conversations. The smart folder, as I say, I'm not going to look at that particularly. I prefer to use individual inboxes. Here, though, you can control what's in it. You can control whether you reply to a message. If you reply to it, whether it comes from your reply comes from the account the message is received at, and all sorts of things in there. But I'm not that bothered about smart folders, so I won't take you through those.
Account list. Double tap to activate.
The account list again, I don't think we need to worry about overly.
Message list.
Message list we do need to worry about, and I'm going to take you in here because this has the ability to clear some other quite annoying settings.
Message list. Navigate up. But message list. For the best experience with Aqua Mail, please grant these permissions. Contacts and list. General. For the best
I've granted it, I think. We did grant it contact permissions.
General. Break up by date. Break up the message list by date. Not ticked. Tick box.
So you can have, obviously, desktop mail clients like Outlook do this. You can have it arranged by views so that your message list is broken up by dates at the tops of columns. I don't like that, so we're not going to do it. It's currently unticked.
Sticky date headers. Date headers stick to the top when scrolling. Not ticked. Tick box. Tap header to select. Selects entire message list section. Not ticked. Tick box.
So a bit like you can collapse and expand groups, that will do similar things and select them. We don't want to do that because we don't want dates or sticky headers or arrangements of any sort by date in terms of having the message list divided. Obviously, we want it sorted by date, but that's not, it is anyway, and that's a slightly different thing.
Slim padding, less white space, more messages per screen. Not ticked. Tick box.
Yeah, so we want more messages per screen. Definitely no padding. There's no point in that.
Message content preview with 1 line of content.
So I like to have much more than 1 line of content on my preview. I want to read as much of the message as possible from the message list so that I can know whether to ignore it or not or
Message
open it.
content preview. No preview. And list ticked with 1 line, with 2 lines of, with 3 lines, with 4 lines of content.
I think 4 is the maximum.
Cancel button. Okay button.
And consistently, again, it's the OK button as it was, I think, when we were playing with how often it will sync and check for mail. It's an OK button rather than the back button.
Message list. Message content. Indent message previews. A bit of empty space for a cleaner look. Ticked. Tick box.
I don't think we care about a bit of empty space. We won't indent previews.
Subject above center. Display subject first. Above the center. Ticked. Tick box.
So I don't like subject above sender. Another annoying setting that we're going to change. We're going to put the sender first.
Not ticked. Full center info. Display sender's name and email both. Not ticked. Tick box.
So that's quite useful. Sometimes, particularly if you're on a mailing list, I mean, there are ways to do it, but it can be tricky to extract an email address. So you can have it simply displayed, assuming that the ISP supports that in a mailing list setting. Obviously, some of them don't, but so you can have that. It will make it more verbose. Obviously, it's going to read you the name and email address. So we're going to leave this unticked.
Message sizes. Display message sizes. Not ticked. Tick box.
Do you want message sizes? You might, if storage is a concern, slightly after the fact, obviously, once you've downloaded it. But if you did want to display sizes, you could target some larger messages for action. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it.
Attachments. Display a preview of attachments and their total size. Not ticked. Tick box. Double tap to activate.
Turn that on if you want.
Stars. Show per message star indicators. Tick box.
So those 3 swipes that I had to do to get over the message, the selector, this is the stars one. So we're going to turn this off. So we have already reduced the number of swipes we need to get from one message to the next from 3 to 2.
Contact images. Show center contact images. Tick box. Round contact images. Are circles on them if it's more rounder? Tick box. Color chips. Show color chips for centers without images. Tick box. Checkboxes. When turned off, you can select messages by long pressing. Tick box.
We want to be able to select messages by long pressing.
Load more messages automatically when scrolling. Tick box.
You definitely want to load more messages automatically when scrolling.
Fast scroll. Enable thumb scroll through list sections. Tick box. Reverse thumb side if you're left-handed or just prefer it that way. Tick box. Pull to select. Swipe down on the left to select. Tick box.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to swipe down to select. I want to long press, or I can long press anyway, but I'm going to turn that off in case I inadvertently activate it.
Pull to refresh. Swipe down to refresh. Tick box. Protect selection state. Press back asterisk twice asterisk to clear the selection. Tick box. Keep selection after action. Keep selection after performing a message action. Tick box. Double tap anywhere to select if there is a selection already. Tick box. Double use backgrounds. Use different backgrounds for red versus unread messages. Tick box. Switch backgrounds. Switch the red/unread message backgrounds. Tick box. Email. Select all needs. Visible messages.
So the select all, what will that actually select? Is it just the messages on screen? Not very helpful.
Select all needs.
I don't think anyway.
Loaded messages.
I'm going to select it to loaded messages, which again won't be everything on a server, but it will select more messages if that's what you want to do.
Cancel. OK. Message list. Select all needs. Show sent as from self. Show sent messages with you as sender. Tick box. Default sort order by date/time.
We could change the default sort order. I mentioned before it was date time, which is what I want, so I'm going to leave it.
Accessibility.
Now, we're about to get rid of another annoying setting.
Selectors, larger tab areas to select and star messages. Tick box.
Obviously, quite useful, I suspect, in certain contexts. With a talkback, though, it's going to be super annoying. When it was saying selector earlier, this is why we're going to turn it off.
Customize. Unread. Canvas smiley. Sample subject. 1354. This is a set. Dividers. Show dividers between messages. Tick box.
I'm going to turn off dividers. I don't know what difference it makes to talkback, but I'm going to do it anyway. It sounds like real estate that could be better used for something else on the screen.
Color. Dividers. 3 dash. Color. Group header. 3 dash. Color.
I'm going to flick through the color settings.
Size. Line 1. Normal. Bold. Line 1. Color. Line 2. Color. Size. Bold. Color. Size.
See if there's anything else left in here apart from these various formatting changes we can make.
Color.
Nope, that's it. So we've finished the message list. Now, I do want to take you into message view as well. There is something on here I suggest that you change.
Message view. Navigate up. Message view. For the best experience with Aqua Mail, please grant these permissions. General.
I'm sure I've granted it permissions. I'm going to do it again.
Auto-fit. Shrink messages.
Oh, it thinks I have. That's okay.
General. Message view. Out of list. General. List. Auto-fit. Shrink messages to fit the screen. Tick box. Image previews. Show previews of image attachments. Tick box. Attachments above text. Show attachments above message text. Not tick.
Attachments above text. Now, this is unticked, which means it might be quite annoying to find the attachment because it's going to be somewhere at the bottom of the message. So I am going to enable.
Attachments above text. Show attachments above message text. Not tick. Tick box.
And then when you get an attachment, you just need to run your finger down the top of the screen. It will say show attachments. From there, you can open it, save it, do what you want, and then you can hide attachments again. If you enable attachments above text, the attachment will always be in the same place rather than it being dependent on how long the message is, how far you need to scroll, is it at the bottom of a thread, etc., etc. So you probably do want to turn on attachments above text.
Hide attachments initially to see message text right away. Tick box. Double tap to activate.
So hide attachments, you would have to hit a show attachments button to get them to show. That's what I tend to do. You could untick this and then you would get the attachments by default already there, but I'm going to leave this as it is.
Open web links in Aqua Mail. Browse faster without leaving the app. Tick box. View images in Aqua Mail. View images faster without leaving the app. Tick box. Fast scroll. Enable thumb scroll through message text. Tick box. Reverse thumb side if you're left-handed or just slim padding. Less white space. More message text visible. Not tick box.
I'll turn that on. We had it in the message list. It's obviously a message view setting as well.
Highlight phone numbers. Make phone numbers into applicable links for easy dialing. Tick box.
Yeah, I definitely recommend you do that. It will then open or ask you to open your default phone app to save you having to cut and paste, or copy and paste, should I say, a phone number from a message.
I quoted text. I text quoted older replies. Tick box.
No, I want to see quoted text. Thank you very much. We'll untick that.
Abbreviated recipients. Hide recipient emails. Show just names. Not tick box.
I want to leave that unticked.
Message view orientation. Rotate with the device. Keep screen on. Keep the screen on while displaying messages. Untick. Tick box. Actions with incomplete messages. In case of a network error, reply to /forward an incomplete message. Untick. Tick box. Double mark messages as read immediately. Mark read on reply. Mark current message read when replying, etc. Unticked. Tick box. Close on reply. Close current message when replying, etc. Unticked. Tick box.
So you can choose, once you've replied to a message, do you want your current message that you're replying to stay open? I think I'm going to tick this.
Tick. Cache images. Try to cache linked images. Tick box. Send read receipts. Send read receipts without prompting. Unticked. Tick box. Show security info. Green or red icon showing DKIM with SPF validation state. Tick box. Navigation. After deleting a message, go back to the message list.
Yeah, we definitely want it to do that.
Previous messages older. When navigating messages, older, like pages in a book. Unticked. Tick box. Show positions. Show message positions within the list and conversation if applicable. Tick box. Snap control of linked images. Show only from known. Show images only from known senders. Tick box. Trust contacts /people. Show linked images from senders in the contacts /people app. Tick box.
So obviously there can be naughties embedded in images. So do you want any image to display, or do you want it to be from trusted contacts or known senders? Options to configure that.
Reset the known list. Reset the list of known senders. Navigate up.
And we're done for that category.
Settings. Message view. Swiping.
We will look at swiping. Now, when we talk about swiping, we're talking about two fingers, obviously. It would be one finger for sighted users, but with TalkBack, we have the additional finger.
Swiping. Navigate up. Swiping. The message view and list. The message view. Swipe the previous /next message. Tick box. Show icons to show previous /next message icons. Untick. Tick box. The message list. The message list. Swipe actions and message list. Tick box. Haptic feedback. Use vibration to indicate swipe commands. Tick box. Sound feedback. Use sound to indicate swipe commands. Untick. Tick box. Sticky icons. Swipe. Release. Tap an icon to execute a command. Untick. Tick box. Right side. Unread. Canvas smiley. Sample subject. 1359. This is a sample. First icon. Mark red /unread. Second icon. None. Third icon. None. Left side. Unread. Canvas. First icon. Delete. The accounts delete option. Second icon. None. Third icon. None.
So you can change what swiping does, and you can decide whether it performs actions or not in there. I'm going to come out.
Aqua Mail settings. Swiping. Message notifications.
So message notifications, you'll have heard it trying to talk while I've been doing this and occasionally say email, and that's because notifications are currently on. Again, something I'm going to change.
Message notifications. Enable notifications. Enable message notifications. Tick box. And list.
Definitely not. You do, though, have a couple of options. Had we left this ticked, we could select what message notifications we wanted. So let me carry on showing you this.
Notify about all unread messages. Only when new messages. Notify only when there are new messages. Tick box.
Untick that. Oh, wait, it's already. I can't change it because I've disabled notifications globally. So.
Only when there are changes. Notify only when there are changes in message states. Tick box. Reset on notification cleared. Reset the new counter when notifications are cleared. Tick box. Manage notifications. Set sound. Vibration. Appearance options. Play sound only once. Only when there is no unread message notification yet. Tick box. Protect privacy. Suppress subject /sender info. Not ticked. Tick box. Action buttons. Reply. Delete. The accounts delete option. Mark red. Protect privacy. Suppress subject /sender info. Not ticked. Tick box.
So you could do that on notifications as well if they were sensitive. Obviously, you can change that setting in Android notifications anyway.
Action button. Confirm notification actions in a separate window. Smartwatch enhancements. Android 7 Plus. Android Wear. Pebble. Garmin. Samsung Gear. Tick box. Deferred sound. One sound at the end of a multiple account mail check. Not ticked. Tick box. When the app is active, post notifications even when the app is open. Not ticked. Tick box. Manage per account. Clear one account notification at a time. Keeping the others. Not ticked. Tick box. Text to speech. Notify about new messages using text to speech. Not ticked. Tick box. Suppress TTS during phone calls. Do not notify during phone calls. Not ticked. Tick box.
So very configurable if you do like notifications.
Aqua Mail settings. Message notification. Priority notifications. Double tap to
You can
activate.
have priority notifications. So if you only want to be notified about emails from individual senders, I'm not going to go in there.
Error notifications. Nights and weekends.
So nights and weekends, you can have things like dark modes, do not disturbs, you can suspend notifications, you can set different times for that to happen on the weekend vis-a-vis a weekday evening. You can set what days your weekends are. Obviously, some places it's Friday, Saturday rather than Saturday, Sunday. So all sorts of things you can configure in there, but we're not going to.
Composing and sending. Double tap to
We'll look at
activate.
composing and sending. It's a fairly important function.
Navigate up. Composing and sending. Default account. Most recently used. Enlist. Double tap to activate.
So you can set a static default account, or you can have the account most recently used. I prefer to have it set. It's a bit academic, so I've only got one at the minute, but I prefer a static default account, not the one I sent a message from last time.
Also use current account from current message list. Folder implies account. Tick box.
So folder implies account. If you are in a different folder to your default account, if you're in the inbox and say hit the compose button, what do you want it to do? I think it's sensible to have it send from the inbox you're in. So folder should apply account. I have this ticked.
New message editor supports more ways to format text. Tick box.
I don't think I really want ways to format text. I'm going to turn this off.
Not ticked. Rich versus plain text. Rich text. Rich text font size. When sending. Default. Do not set. Rich text font family. Default. Do not set. Rich text font color. 3 dash. Shrink large images. Do not shrink. Prompt when attaching. Prompt to shrink images when they're attached. Tick box.
It's always a good idea. It can shrink an image file, which can get quite large.
Customize the buttons. 3 dash. Slim padding. Less white space. More addresses and text visible. Not ticked. Tick box. Ticked.
Yeah, we'll have slim padding.
Rich format R at the bottom. Move rich format R to the bottom. Useful on LG and HTC devices. Tick box. Floating rich format R. Make rich format R float over message text. Tick box.
I don't want it to float anywhere.
Image previews. Show previews of image attachments. Tick box. Reply at the bottom. When replying inline, put new text at the bottom. Not ticked.
So this was the bottom posting I was talking about earlier. If you want to, manipulate your messages, maybe you're answering some questions. You want the answers to appear below the questions. I'm not a fan of bottom posting. As I said, I prefer to listen to emails via preview rather than opening them if I can. Bottom posting obviously renders that tricky.
Quote the original when replying / forwarding by default. Tick box.
So we'd set that somewhere else, I think, quoting the original, so you can do it here.
Prefix for plain text replies. Right angle bracket. Quoting better format like Thunderbird. Gmail. Double tap to add. Prefix for plain text replies. Right angle bracket.
I think I'm going to change it to right angle bracket to greater than. I don't know why it's set to that.
Right angle bracket. Cancel button. OK button. Cancel. Right angle. Prefix for plain text replies. Right angle bracket. Edit box. Double tap to
I would have to put a sign in. I'm not sure I can be too bothered whether it's greater than or not.
Quoting better format like quoting features and then replies. Keep signature in the middle when replying inline. Tick box.
So keep signature in the middle. If you set a signature, do you want it to appear at the very bottom of the chain, or do you want it to appear after your reply immediately so that people can more easily find your contact details? And I imagine you could have it not appear at all on replies. I like it in the middle.
Confirm before sending. Ask for a confirmation before sending a message. Not tick box. Send user agent. Add the user agent header when sending messages. Tick box. Use correct encoding. Allow correct encoding for Yahoo accounts. Not tick box. Navigate up. Button. Out. Aqua Mail settings. Composing and send notifications. Contacts. Calendar. Widgets. Search. Security. Network. About. Double tap to
and that, I think, is all I'm going to show you in the settings. As you can see, a lot of settings category. We skated over the latter ones. Network will be things like cellular and Wi-Fi that you'll want to take a look at depending on your data allowances. Let's go back to the inbox and see if changing the order of sender and subject, getting rid of selectors, getting rid of stars has made the app any different.
Navigate up. Button. Apply new settings. Aqua Mail. Panel _org.man.aquamail. OK. Press onto the counter a folder for addition. OK. Aqua Mail Pro. Refresh all. Button. Search. Button. More options. Start folder. Some account. Or green 1000. Refresh account.
So I'm going to go to my account. We did have the account screen set to appear. Had I not done that, we would now be in the inbox. But I'm going to find my account.
Refresh account. Button. 37 asterisk. New message out of list. Inbox.
So we're now in the inbox.
Navigate up. Unread. And don't scatter. Inner critic power. For Jerry. Religious correction to the unread. Jacob Cruiser. Read. Unread. Colin Phelan. Read. Unread. William and Philippa Lomas. Unread. National Federation.
And I'm just swiping, and you'll hear it's a much better experience. So I'm going to long tap a message to select it.
Action mode. One message. Unread. Selected.
And you can hear that it is selected. I swiped away from the message and came back. And just as we did when we were composing a message, let's have a look at what's on the bottom of the screen.
One message. Out of list. Move to deleted. Button. Mark red. Button. Mark with stars. Button. Unread. Next door Avon mode. Move to folder. Button. Out of list. Select all. Button. Double more options. Button.
So I'll go look at the more options, see what we have in there, just out of interest.
Window. Perma delete. And list. Hide. Keep on server. Copy to folder. Move to archive. Move to spam. Show headers.
So various things we can do in the more options. I'm going to close us out of that.
Back. Button. Navigation. One message. Aqua Mail. Move to deleted.
And I think we'll move it to deleted. And it's gone. So there we have it. You'll see that those changes in the message list to change the order, to get rid of the star button and to get rid of the selector, all have had an impact. So now it's simply one swipe to move from message to message. But it is powerful if you would rather have a separate selector rather than having to double tap and hold on a message to select it. As I say, for a talkback user, I don't think you are going to want that. Let's have a look at composing a message.
Unread. Richard Godfrey McCabe. Read. Unread. Richard unread.
I'm going to get to the top of the message list, which will make the compose button appear. So we're there now, and the compose button should be towards the bottom right. If you are midway through a message list, let's say you've been scrolling and all of a sudden you want to write a new message, the compose button may not appear until you've gone back up to the top.
Edit box. English. UK. Word is shown.
I think I'll write to myself because then we can read the message.
Use the button on the right to toggle the input field for CC/BC. Okay.
So we have the little tip thing that popped up. I'm going to double tap in the to field.
English. UK. Word is shown. S. C. E. E. R. G. G. Show. R.
Let's hope it's found me already.
Message body. Edit box. Double tap to Edward Green. Green 1000.
It has. So I just slid my finger up. I swiped up from that to field and it showed me the results as I was typing in. So I can add a BCC. There's a button here.
Message subject. Edit box.
Message subject.
Message body. Edit box. Editing. Message subject. Capital B. Samson keyboard. Capital H. Capital A. I.
So there we go.
Message body. Edit box.
Message body.
Capital T. Samson keyboard. Capital R. Capital T. Capital T. H. I. S. Home button. Space bar B. Space bar. Is. I. S. Space bar. Is. Shift is off. A. Space bar. A. T. E. S. T.
There we go. We've
Space bar. Space.
written the message, and if I go to the top of the screen and swipe, we can attach a file. We could just send the message. Let's attach a file.
Keyboard hidden. Aqua Mail. Allow Aqua Mail to access storage. Allow Aqua Mail to access photos, media, and files on your device. Allow button. Aqua Mail.
So I think what you probably want to do, because of the slightly inaccessible way the previous one was depicting attachments, there is a button at the bottom called System File Picker. I suggest you go into there rather than Aqua Mail's default.
Videos. Documents. Tick box.
We'll go into Documents, I think.
Browse files and other apps. Bug reports. Drive. Dropbox. Gallery. My files. OneDrive. Photos. SoundPick. System. Files. Preview. Log Aqua Mail crash.txt. Preview the file log Aqua Mail crash. Awesome.xml. June 2nd. Preview the user distinct log.txt. Preview the logful.txt. Preview the example_1.xml. April 7th.
All sorts of log files in here. Nothing very interesting, but I'll just attach this log file.
Attach button out of list.
So hopefully it has now attached it.
Attach button send button.
And we'll go and send this.
Progress. Aqua Mail. 0%. Send it through or read 1981 at gmail.com. Aqua inbox or read 1000. Search. Button. More options. Unread. Edward Green. No subject. 1417. With attachments. Lockful.txt. Enlist.
That sounds a bit more promising. So let's double tap that.
Edward Green. Message 1/59. Lockful.txt. 5.3 KB. Double tap to activate.
So yeah, that Aqua Mail thing is a bit messy to attach, but there is, as I say, a system file picker at the bottom, which seems to do a nicer job because it opens up your file explorer rather than having it done through the Aqua Mail interface. That, though, I think is about it. We have set up an account. We've had an initial look at the message list and decided we didn't really like it. We've then walked through some settings to change them, show you what's there and make it work a little bit better. And finally, we have written a message, and we've also examined controls that appear in messages. We also did some selecting and looked at the controls there. So one of the nice things about Aqua Mail is in messages, certainly, and in the message lists, the controls you want are probably going to be displayed. There are a few more options buttons, but by and large, when you open a message, you're going to see reply, forward right there. When you select it, you're going to see delete, move right there. And obviously you can select multiple messages to do with as you please. So that's a brief tour of Aqua Mail. Obviously, we haven't covered absolutely everything it does, but I hope that was useful.
Thanks for listening to another clip from the Blind Android Users channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're notified of every new material that we upload. Thanks again for listening to the Blind Android Users channel.